me up and breathe. Light me up, breathe.
Can you feel the strength of this woman who tames? Lady of the beast who commands the rains. Misses up a fire of 1,000 days. Her true love desire puts blood in your veins. It's the Indian goddess, is the heat that heals. Sleeping goddess, only she reveals.
Sleeping goddess, only she reveals.
The truth. Wrathful the king who chants down the moon. Let this luminous light fire flame from within. Humble and demeanor, so sweet without a sin. Kundalini serpent rise from your spine. Let it in time like a spider on a line. Weaves destinies in the proper time.
Love it.
Yes, divinity's queen. Initiation through shamanic dream. Touching through space is one wrist and a cosmic embrace. So our eyes have seen. Her power I taste. The vision is keen. Sharp as a knife that slices illusion. Threshold that holds the sacred soul fusion. An empress of tomorrow rises like the sun. Through the tears and the sorrow, she is born as one. In the womb of creation, we are all the same.
We're all the same.
We are one and name.
Kundalini manifest. Kundalini manifest. You're such a great sport. Yay!
This is how it should start.
Listening to that is a song called Kundalini Manifest by Goddess Alchemy Project.
That's
absolutely love that. And first of all, Madonna, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I absolutely love you. You know that we speak every day.
Thank you, my dear.
Being someone that's instrumental in this journey for me, a dear friend now, but also people on Facebook absolutely miss you, and keep asking me, "Where's Madonna?"
I will be back at some point. I'm just taking a break, and I'm really, just really. Finally
riding the Kundalini waves,
riding the rainbow Kundalini waves.
Well, look, speaking of Kundalini, and the reason why we started with this song, and the fact that I sort of sing and dance and just in everything that I do, as you know, I've been practicing Kundalini Yoga now since April, and it was so pivotal in my journey to realize now just how important that was for my awakening. Like, it was almost like this was the piece that was missing to help me energetically with what I'm doing today. So for people watching, like I said on the show yesterday, that everything that we do is collective. We cannot just be sort of segmented into doing one thing and then just be awakened. That awareness has to be in everything that we do. It's consciousness, isn't it? Now, am I an expert on Kundalini? Absolutely not. And I had a private one-to-one with a lovely lady called Evie. And it just happened very organically at the start of the lockdown. And she said, look, this is what I do, Kundalini Yoga. And I was asking her, how is this different? And it was all sorts of different breathing exercises. And it was hard. It tested me. The first 2 weeks was, I was really sort of like, oh my God, this is not easy. Like repetitive movements, repetitive breathing. But as we were going from April to May, and as you very well know, with the trajectory that we were following with the Facebook bombs and the awakening about the children, I think that that's what kept me quite centered and aligned with truth, amongst obviously my, that inner core belief in what this whole movement represents. So I thought today, thinking about the people that follow me, and the amazing lesson that I had with you the other day, I think first of all, it'd be nice just for those that know nothing about Kundalini Yoga and what it represents, for you to, let the viewers know exactly the benefits, why Kundalini Yoga, how is it different from other yogas, and maybe we could do something, if everybody would like that's watching, maybe do some Zoom weekly Kundalini sessions. So I can try and set that up, but let's see how that goes. So Madonna, enough of my waffle. Your turn.
Well, firstly, thank you so much. As I was expressing to you earlier, thank you for coaxing me out of my comfort zone.
Oh, bless you.
Because that was the first class that I taught this year with you. The other
Wow.
Yeah, I've been talking about this for some time. It just didn't feel like I was in the space to teach yoga last year in 2020. As
Yeah.
you know, it had other plans for us, right? So
Yep.
I took on the role of digital warrior, full time, full on, and as much as it closed a few doors, let's say several,
Yeah.
opened up so many more.
Of course.
And yeah, throughout that whole time well, basically, yeah, it was a full-time job of like being very vocal about
Yeah.
the truth, you know, as we were unearthing the truth.
Yeah.
It was like a journey into at some point we went through some deep
Consumed
dark
us.
holes, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what helped me not really get sucked into that level was my practice of Kundalini Yoga. I mean, it has really helped me tremendously over the past, I would say, I started practicing almost 10 years ago. So I was introduced to it, 10 years ago.
Wow.
So I've had like, you know, the most life transforming experiences of my life over the past, I would say, the last 5 years especially, and I've gone through a divorce, you know, after a 20-year marriage, lost, you know, business, had to start anew and all that. So there's so much going on in my life that I think me discovering the practice came at the right time, like most things in life, right?
Absolutely. Timing is
timing.
The synchronicity of timing for myself as well, that it just came. Was it a coincidence that it coincided with the movement literally a month after lockdown? Because somewhere for my script and my purpose, in alignment with the Kundalini energy, it was meant to happen at that very moment to keep me centered and focused in this movement. So that's a very good point you raised. Thank you.
So in hindsight, I feel like the past 10 years has really prepared me for this.
Absolutely.
So if I may, you know, talk a little bit about, you know, how it came to me, how I discovered it, how it transformed my life, right? So it came at a time when I was really into practicing yoga anyway, right? I was into all sorts of yoga. I just turned 40 then. So 10 years ago, I just turned 40 and I felt like I was ready for...
You're not a day older than 30.
Thank you, my love. Thank you, my love. I'll run with that. But I've been very, very vocal and open about, you know, my age. It's just a number, right? Yeah. So so I was into all sorts of yoga. I was into hatha, vinyasa, ashtanga, even hot Bikram yoga, name it, I was doing it, right? I just had that, like, you know, the term, I'm sure you do, FOMO. I was such a FOMO, you know, I just had to do what was on offer, whatever was cool, right? Plus, I wasn't much of a gym person anyway. So, in fact, I'm not a gym person. But so I've never really been into hard workout. But to me, it felt like that 90 minutes of being on the mat and stretching and what have you was already at that time was a form of escape, right? I was escaping. I was escaping from life, really, you know. The noise, the static of life. Even though at that point I still was not at all attuned to my spirituality. You know, I was still very much of the world, right?
Yeah.
So in fact, I remember even as a committed yoga practitioner, I still struggled with, at the end of the practice, you're asked to lie down and rest and integrate everything. We call it Shavasana.
Mm-hmm.
That really was my least favorite part. I never wanted to participate in it because, I was too busy. I was like, what?
Mind.
Yeah, the mind plus, that sense of, I have far better things to do. You want 10 to 15 minutes of my life where I could be somewhere, I could be doing more important things, right? So, that was how disconnected I was with myself, right? Being with me was not comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that?
Absolutely amazing point. And if we just hold on to that thought for a second, remember to bring that up again. Being with me, I was not comfortable with that.
Not at all.
How important is that for us to understand this right now in what we're going through? What is this this whole year presenting to all of us, that for whatever the whole narrative is, whichever way people perceive it, ultimately we're having to face ourselves in this movement, aren't we? Because we're being locked down, we're at home, we are staying, well, I'm fortunate, I'm here with Kenzo, you're there in lockdown paradise, but a lot of people are with just, their family members, maybe they get on with them, maybe they don't, and in not the most ideal of situations. And this is a very good, whether we have the eyes to perceive this, a great opportunity for us to go internally and see what is going on in there.
I mean, what better time, right? We'll probably never have this opportunity again.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a superpower.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you agree? Like, it's
absolutely to go inside and to be able to sit with yourself. I think I've said this on many of my shows. I'm an introverted extrovert, so I can handle socializing only within a certain capacity. I love being social butterfly, and I love people. Yeah, and I like the energies, but I've learned to protect my energies. So my aura was too open, and just everything was just great, and roses and daisies and whatever. And then you learn the hard way as you get older that you must learn to spiritually protect yourself by having spiritual practices. And this is where I've learned, and I came across different forms of yoga, but more importantly is for me is focusing on breath and how we breathe, being conscious of our breath. Because if I find myself, like, if I'm in shallow breath throughout the day, that's when my anxiety levels can go up unnecessarily. So going in internally requires it's not like a manual in a step by step instruction, but that being with yourself, going back to what you said, is a challenge that a lot of people find difficult. They need to be around people, need to be doing something. And this is what the globalism and consumerism, that's what it's done to us. It's made us busy. Smartphones have made us not very smart. And constantly with that need to be doing something, that when we quieten down, it's like, oh, I should be doing something. So Shavasana maybe was difficult for you during those times because of the monkey chatter, the mind, right?
Yeah. But now this is what we look forward to, right? We do all that to get there. And it's like marinate in that bliss, that what is that term in Sanskrit? I can't remember. Amrit, right?
Yeah.
The nectar.
Yeah.
So So going back to my story about how it came to my life, that was pretty much the backdrop of where I was when Kundalini Yoga came to me. So the fact that I was doing all sorts of yoga, just later on, it came to me that I was actually, without knowing it, I was searching for the right one. Because
Right.
why else would I be? Why else would I have 3 memberships of 3 different yoga studios?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So then, yeah. So the day when I was dragged to a Kundalini Yoga class, it was with my my bestie. Then we were both practicing Ashtangis, and being a FOMO, she said, we got to try this because the teacher is just visiting from San Francisco. It's a one-off class. And yeah, you've got to try it. And back then I was managing my bar restaurant. As you know, as you very well know, it's like one of the most stressful businesses and jobs to hold, right? So it was I remember it vividly. It was a Friday night, busiest night of the week for restaurants and bars. And it was an evening class, and it was from 7 to 8:30. Again, busiest time to be doing yoga. But I was like, okay, I'll just go. I had my makeup on. I just thought, just in and out of that and get to work soon after, right? I went there half-heartedly. I wasn't like, I was like, I just have to, at least I can say that I've done it, right? Little did I know that evening was that was to change my life forever. Wow. That's how transformative the experience was for me. So
in that one session,
in fact, not even that one session, the first 10-15 minutes, it was that transformative and powerful that so the class starts, and being a yogi, I was used to usual commercial type of yoga, right? Fast and flowing and all
dynamic
that,
and hot and Bikram and all of these.
Yes. And it was nothing like that at all. So I remember we were asked to sit on our heels, and like in a prayer position. You know how like the Muslims sit and pray. So that was the pose, and we were asked to bow repeatedly, like bowing movement, a dynamic bowing movement. And I've never done anything like that before in my life, right? Like placing my forehead on the mat, and she was like instructing us to bow to something that is higher than you, or the divine in you. I was like, what is she talking about?
Divine in you. Isn't that beautiful?
I know, but like I've never been asked to do anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So I found myself, my heart just started to rip open, and I just started crying. I started crying, and I was bawling my eyes out, like, oh my God, what is happening here? And I just kept bowing and bowing and bowing. The next hour just flew. I mean, it was just the most magical experience. I was in a trance. It really felt like I was transported into some other time-space continuum, right? So towards the end of the class, or rather the end of the class, when I had like, my makeup, my mascara, all running down my face, I turned around to my bestie who dragged me there, and I just felt so much love for her. It was such a strange sensation. I've never felt that in my life. And then I gave her a hug, and I thanked her for, dragging me there. And she was like, whoa, like, what's up? I'm like, did you not feel that? And she's like, no, it's a bit weird. So, that was really interesting because it didn't have the same effect on her as it did on me.
It activated something very powerful within you.
Very, very powerful. So I rushed up to the teacher. I thanked her, and I told her, whatever this is, in fact, it was not as polite as that. I was just like, what happened? What the F was that all about? Like, look at, no, you're not a wreck. You're ready. You're ready. I'm like, whatever. I'm ready. Okay, let's do it, right? So there was no one in Manila qualified to teach Kundalini Yoga then, right? So I asked her, how do I do this? Please, let me, I want to do this. I want this to be a part of my life. And she said, just wait. The teacher will come. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I think for the next month, I practiced on YouTube, whatever YouTube
Wow.
came up with.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that's how I started. And then true enough, as she said, when you're ready, the teacher will come. The teacher came. So a teacher she's Filipina, but she lived in LA for 30 years. And she came back to Manila and we got in contact. And I asked her, please, I need this in my life, teach. And she started teaching in my home. And we created a nice little community. No, I got my friends into it. And a year later, like exactly a year from my first class, I had that calling to do teacher training. So I found myself in the Himalayas, as they call it.
Wow. I didn't know this part.
But yeah,
where my Shivji, like the place for Shiva.
Rishikesh.
Himalayas.
The Himalayas.
Rishikesh,
yeah. So I took my teacher training in India, and like I said, life was never the same again. Everything changed.
How long was the
from
training
there.
For? How long was the training
I was there for 6 weeks.
Wow.
So much has changed. Like, let's start with the diet, right? Like for 6 weeks, we were basically forced into veganism. Like we had no choice but to eat veggies and a satwik diet. And that was one of the main concerns for me. I was like, how am I going to do it? Because I've been an unrepentant meat eater all my life, right? But then
just for the purpose of people watching, what is a satwik diet, Madonna?
Very clean. There's hardly anything that's stimulating. Like there's no garlic, onion, chilies. Or maybe they still use chilies in India. Well, very minimal, right? Very minimal.
They don't use garlic because it's considered an aphrodisiac. So it's a stimulus, right?
Yes.
And as the same with like caffeine as well. So a satwik diet, as the name, we say sat, truth. Yeah. So to be able to go into our truth, the stuff that we put in and ingest, obviously consume and eat. Satwik diet is what a lot of the Hindu people like try and consume in India, Rishikesh, and in the places like this, and in these yoga centers. Even in Sri Lanka, when I went, it was a lot like of the satwik diet. But I mean, they add garlic though. That's more Ayurveda. But these are all very important. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. So you were having a satwik diet, your diet. So it changed and it helped, right?
It helped. I didn't believe for a second that I would last, right? Because up until then I was eating steak. I had a restaurant. It was like a Middle Eastern cuisine. So, I ate my lamb, I was like really into that. And in fact, I remember announcing one time, I said to my friends, because most of them were vegetarian already, they're like, shift the diet, Madonna, shift the diet. I'm like, just give up on me already. I will never give up meat, not in this lifetime. Okay. But then, so I came back from that and I'm like, I was so put off by meat already. And I mean, this is not about that. Okay. I will never, ever tell anybody to stop eating whatever, right? That's not what this is all about. But it's just, me sharing what worked for me at that particular point, right?
Yeah.
So I became a pescatarian because I still eat fish, seafood. Really just the shift because of, starting with that, I stopped drinking alcohol altogether, like for the first time in my life, right? I've been like pretty much a party girl, right? I had restaurants, bars, and all. That was very much a part of my
the social sort of life that comes with that business, and it's fun and it's great.
It's fun, and I liked it. I mean, I really liked it, right? Yeah, but then the shift happens when there comes a time when you feel like, oh, this is not serving me anymore, right?
Exactly.
And then you start to become more conscious of life choices, right?
Yep.
Like, again, practicing yoga, letting go of like the negative stuff, people, stories in your
Yeah.
life, right? Like the addiction to whatever, drama, right? Chaos. So at that point, in my early days, I was I was so in love with it. My body was really every day yearning for the practice. Like, I couldn't wait to hop on the mat and start, doing all those crazy.
Doing that dance that we did in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. Not much it, but that's how.
That's the vibe.
That's the vibe, and it's a lot of like movement, really, like crazy movement, right?
It is. It is when you start evolving in it, it really does test you, but that, like, it does. It's so, they might look like simple steps, but actually you're sat in one position for 11 minutes. It's like,
yeah. And you know what that does to you, right? It strengthens your nervous system, like when you're able to hold the pose for that long, it kind of readjusts your capacity to stay calm, right?
Yeah.
In the midst of chaos, in the midst of a storm, right?
How important is that right now? So how conducive was that in our lives? Yeah, like if you've been practicing it and you use those disciplines daily while you were doing what you're doing, and if we think back to April, May, June, July, these were quite like emotionally intense periods where I think there was, like, with the first batch of people that got awakened in March, and then there's so many everyone, it's also happening in cycles, right? So we're there, and that nobody that I knew was even talking about any of this, and I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? But my Kundalini instructor, she didn't really align with any of that, but she kept the practice very disciplined. Like, we didn't let our personal opinions or anything come into our energetic space, because that's what Kundalini for me also represented, was that recalibration of our inner self. So for a long time, I felt like my chakras were everywhere. One was in Zimbabwe, one was in Japan, and I was just all over the show. It's like, and the anxiety. And I'm glad you mentioned how it strengthens your nervous system, because, as you know, and I discussed yesterday with fibromyalgia is a central nervous system condition, and that sense of anxiety, and it's just there all the time. But when I started to do the breathing exercises, and don't get me wrong, I still have found it very, very strenuous at certain points because of these pains that I have to be able to do certain poses for that long. But as we talk a little bit more about what the benefits of it are, other than just strengthening your nervous system, for me, that has been the core start, because with what you do, you yourself know, and what we do, the energies are so crazy, and it takes a lot from you, because there's this disparity in humanity at the moment about, I'm right, you're wrong, this is wrong, and you're conspiracy, whatever, and none of us are bad people, none of us, right? It's just ego.
Well, unless you're a pedo. That's just
as in, like, on this truth and movement, or the people who aren't awake. I'm not talking about them. They're like these people that we still, well,
I'm glad you clarified.
But I mean, we listened to Sasha's explanation about that as well, and the whole cycle of birth and rebirth, and what we express in our Gita, that we ultimately want to be in that self-actualized, liberated mukti, moksha, liberation. And the greatest strain is to be born as a human and for a soul, right? Because mukti and moksha is what we ultimately want, to be like rebirth. The cycle of death, rebirth is until we have learned our soul lesson and we have evolved within our soul journey. So, I mean, that's getting really deep and away from the Kundalini, but, you know, we...
Not really, no, it's very much, it's integral to it.
Yeah, we're consistently, you know, evolving. So what gets in the way of for humanity is ego, ultimately. And just to pause on what we're saying, just a brief example of that. Recently, you know, and I know we talk endlessly about these subjects when we're speaking personally, but in the truther movement in particular, or whatever label we give, the truther, the research, awakened, the woke, I'm not really one for labels. I don't like it, but just by way of reference.
Yes.
And categorizing people, not through deliberation of like, you know, separation. We're all one. Yeah. We're operating at different frequencies and we're seeing things through different lenses. Right. And intention and perception is so important. What is our intention? Well, these people that have all found out about the children, we're all intending for the world to wake up to that. But then what happens? Let's break it down. Some people are like, this person's not good, but I still want to do good for the children. That person's a fraud. This person's a this. This person's
so
a
much,
that.
huh? So much
And
of
it
this
happens.
going on. Yeah.
Too much. And I had a situation this morning where, unfortunately, let's just be very honest here, because I think it needs to be addressed. Charlie Ward has been completely character assassinated over the last few months. Now, whatever people think, well, ultimately, he's a fraud, he's a liar, he's a this, he's trying to scam people. How? You know, I want people to tell me how, and how do they know? Show me proof. So he's like just out trying to make media, social media. He's doing 6 or 7 videos a day. Yeah. Okay. His information is not always accurate. In fact, sometimes a lot of it is not on point. I'm just expressing a view here. People can shoot me or whatever. I'm not so bothered by that. I'm just trying to convey views here. Yeah. And this is actually important in incorporating a discipline, a spiritual discipline such as Kundalini, because it allows us to have a perception and looking at people's intention. So we're going out there. I don't agree a lot with many of the truthers or disagree. I'm indifferent. Yeah. I'm indifferent. Sometimes I work on frequencies. I'm like, that's not really resonating with me. But hey, look, he's expressing a view. Right? He's expressing a view. And he actually said on this video that went viral yesterday, I shared it. I said, let's see, because there's 3 storylines happening here. Yeah. Now, let's all employ a bit of common sense, right? I don't know all the answers. How am I getting my information? It's all these other bits of that research that I'm doing, like yourself. And then what are we doing then, Madonna? We are then like seeing what aligns with us and what seems like codswallop, right? Essentially. Codswallop. And I'm like, well, like even in the inauguration, we were like disappointed about the arrest, but where was it said that it's going to happen in the inauguration? Yeah. You know, it just said the first arrest is going to shock the world. And then us pundits, people started speculating. So you start drawing conclusions. So here we have then, and this is human nature, and this is no judgment, guys, if you're listening. It's just an observation of how we conduct ourselves in this movement. And for me, I've had a lot of abuse, and I find, I mean, you've kept me sane in the humor. I mean, we just laugh and we're like literally crying, right? And some of the abuse has been nasty. I mean, I do have a pity party every now and again, you know, but we make it fun and funny. But this character assassination of people, discrediting them, they're trying to expose the bad things. I get that there could be, I get there's other spiritual things going on, right? But what does it serve us and our vibrations for us individually? Like if I'm going, Hannah, you're a fraud, you're this, pointing. What's going to happen is it's going to bounce back that energy. If so, and this thing about abundance and people earning money, I had a very weird relationship with abundance here. And this is just all amalgamating to important things that I think we need to address here. It's about like, one of the things is that, oh, he's just scamming people. How is he scamming people? Because he's recommending a few things on his like 5G products, like heavy metal detoxing stuff, and I think something else was his book. Okay, so this man sits there 7 hours a day, does 7 interviews. You lot all were feeding off him in the beginning. Okay, he's not accurate and he's not completely correct in his information. And like I said, there's 3 storylines happening here. But sorry, I'm going on about this, but it's important for us because this is a spiritual thing. So this is all about what we were saying about looking within and how we are perceiving things and intending for things to happen. So ultimately, it's you know, when people are saying he's a scam, it's where in your life are you scamming yourself? You know, I get that there is dishonesty. There's people that can say things and to make a quick buck here or there. But well, guess what? We all have a choice, don't we? Of where we draw our attention to. So going back to, you know, the energies and the disciplines of Kundalini, this stuff really helped me to start thinking in cleaner ways, because you're recalibrating with your higher self, and within your higher self we are all trying to actualize to that place of mukti, liberation. But that doesn't mean that you have to sit under a tree and meditate and it's all like woo all the time, you know. Is it making sense what I'm saying, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, just to add on to that, in terms of the benefits, to me, it's just because of, like, as we were discussing earlier, you're asked to hold the pose for a long time, and I know that other practices of yoga also asks that of us, right? Such as yin yoga. I mean, you know, all forms of yoga have their own medicinal value and quality. This is just one of those methodologies, right?
Yeah.
That we both have found to be absolutely potent and quick, right?
Very.
So I mean, I've shared this with you. I've been a big Russell Brand fan forever until this year, but we won't go there. So he's been a practitioner and a teacher. I mean, I think he started teaching at some point, but he was comparing Kundalini Yoga to the other forms. Yes, yeah. I think, you know, we had the same teacher at some point, but he was comparing it to like if Hatha Yoga was cannabis, Iyengar being, I can't remember, the hash. Kundalini Yoga to him is like the cocaine of yogas, because it gets you there so quickly, right? I'm not in no way, shape, or form advocating drug use here, but just quoting a famous quote of Russell Brand. That's so in a way, it just, for me, it gives me a chance to examine in many ways, right? Because you're asked to hold the pose for so long, you're asked to move the arms, or, you know, whatever, the legs dynamically. You're being asked to look at pain and discomfort squarely, right? And it's asking you to move through the pain and discomfort. Obviously, being conscious of your own capacity, right? Because it never pushes you far beyond your threshold, right? Again, you are the master of your own, your sovereign being. You know, you have the mastery of your body and of your faculties. So you do what you can, right? So again, it's like asking you to develop the capacity to move through the blocks, whether it's emotionally, because we do have a lot of emotional blockage, mentally, physically, of course. And then it asks you to, it asks for you to be humble, you know, that I can't do this beyond this. So I'm just going to be okay with it. Yeah. And so, yeah, humility, it makes you humble, and you are also asked to surrender to resistance, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a weird practice, but I love that about it.
Oh,
'Cause, you know,
it's absolutely far from, I think, weird. I think it's just, you said the thing, the potent. Well, I think, yeah, you know, it's potent for sure. And I asked you this question earlier on, like, and I heard Charlie Freak talk about, was it Charlie Freak that spoke about it? But no, sorry, it was Sadhguru. Two different, completely different people. Sadhguru, yeah. Yeah, it's completely. Now, Sadhguru talks about the Shambhavi Mahamudra. I went to Coimbatore 2 years ago to the inner engineering weekend. Yeah, weekend course, or
yeah.
whatever you call it. And in one of the sessions there, we talked about Kundalini Yoga, and I remember it having, and I hadn't started it, they were practicing it, and then there was a discussion about it, and then we watched a video of Sadhguru, and then there's so much on his own page and his app, and I love his work and everything, although a lot of spiritual healers and spiritual people and spiritual figures and authorities in the spiritual community are subject to a lot of backlash given what the revelations that we're finding out about.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, but you know, he's not, you know, aligned to any of the bad stuff, but where his geopolitical views remain, we don't know yet. It's not clear. But he said about Kundalini Yoga being quite a potent practice, and if you get it wrong, then there could be some negative consequences of the discipline and the practice. So can you just shed a little bit more light about what that means?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we talked about this, and yeah, I know of a few people who have had their Kundalini awakened, they say prematurely, because well, that's why you need to do it with someone, with a teacher, basically, with someone who knows how to cultivate it properly, administering, because you have to think of it like medicine, right? It's like as a doctor, you don't overprescribe, right? Or you don't give more than what is required for the body to heal. Yeah, that's why there's like certain dosage of this and that medication administered. So it's the same. It's the same. You're activating energy within the body. So obviously, if you overdo it, then you can end up frying yourself. You can actually end up frying your nervous system, your your glands. So
be a psychopath, basically.
basically,
50 Shades of Psycho. Yeah.
You mentioned ego earlier, right? Very much a part of our everyday life, and how we interact with others and the world. This very much applies to the practice as well, because not just in Kundalini, but with yoga in general. Yeah, there's that.
That's
like
why
ego.
I felt meant to mention it. And guys, look, you know, it's really important because everybody that's watching us that has become aligned with us has been through this movement. So it wasn't essentially like deviating from that, but it's very important to talk about ego. And this was something that I really wanted to draw attention to, just from a place of just let's understand, let's really kind of gain that perception internally and intention, and then see how it kind of, you know, makes our vibration within us. Do we feel good? Like, you know, when you shout at someone, or, you know, righteous anger is conducive. I don't like, listen, you know, I'm not just like, yeah, love, you know, I am also, I've got
not
that
now.
no, because there is what we call in Sanskrit is pap meaning sin, you know. And in Gujarati, my mom always says, "Pap karvanu pap che," and "Pap sahan karvanu be pap che," and that basically means to commit a sin is a sin, but to also endure a sin is also, you need to kind of stand up for yourself in a righteous way with decorum, and like sometimes like it's like the taking abuse. Do you just sit and take abuse, or do you stand up for yourself? Where everything is balance, yeah, everything needs to have that balance within. Too much of anything is, we live in a polarized state. That's where duality is so important to embrace and understand. So a lot, half the world, unfortunately, we are like in a state of constant like this, and I call that the bipolar, you know, synthesizing and demising ourselves and against others, or looking down on people without even realizing. And it's this consciousness now in this movement that's really forcing people to address this and see how we are. And, you know, ego, exactly what you said. Ego is the, you know, eradication of the ego. And I love that actual move in the practice, ego eradication.
Ego eradicator, yeah.
Right, you know, some of the steps, and you have to have your arms like this for 11 minutes. Sometimes, I mean, she goes, "Wait till you do 22 minutes." I'm like, "Oh, easy now." Let's just start with 1 minute, okay?
Yeah, well, you have to start from somewhere, right? A number of times that people, as a yoga instructor, people have come up to me and say, "Oh, but I'm not flexible. I can never do it." But, you know, no, we weren't born flexible, you know. That's why it's called a daily practice. You have to work your way to get there. So, so it's like, for me, it's this practice is the perfect antidote to the craziness of the times. And it has been prophesied, in fact. The yogi master who brought it to the West, his although he was teaching it back in the 70s, 80s, he constantly spoke of these times, the coming times, you know, the as we push towards the Aquarian age, these technologies would be required, you know. It's not going to be an option. So, I mean, like when I was hearing that 10 years ago, I was like, surely, I'm like thinking, would I be alive when that happens? You know, it seems like a very far off concept. You know, I was envisioning that it might happen to my kids. Maybe I won't be around for that. Little did I know. Right? So it's I find it the perfect antidote for the challenges of these times. The, you know, it's as meditative a practice it is, it's also quite physical, as you have experienced, right? So the physicality of it keeps us strong, right? Again, I can not stress enough how it's really strengthening the nervous system. It's the practice of warriors, you know, because Kundalini Yoga is like really entwined with the Sikhs. Although the Sikhs would like, they'd go nuts if you told them that Sikhism and yoga are connected. Anyway, so again, we're not going to go there. But yeah, so and then it's not. I love that about the practice. Like it really, it hones you into a warrior. You know, it's warriorship. And then there's that subtle aspect of it.
So true. And thing that you mentioned to me this morning is the breath, you know, which we both realized you a long time ago, but that's what I said to you, that Madonna, it's the breathing, you know, that I found so useful, because when we go into a state of despair, anxiety, worry, you know, fear, we are in shallow breath. So literally we're just breathing, and my breath would just go, when I used to breathe in, it used to stop here. It's like it would just not go past my heart and right into my sort of solar plex. And I found that that's because there was a lot of, you know, just anxiety of just life, right? But your breath is such a great indicator to see where you're at, to measure where you're how anxious or stress-free you are. So
breath is very much integral to the practice, because breath is the catalyst for change, right? You know how like you go to the gym and you have no idea how to breathe properly and just pumping weights, and that's why it's called going to the gym and not yoga, right? So the difference is that with yoga, you're doing it with the breath. The breath is what's allowing you to do it and maintain the pose for longer, right? So if you're up for it, we can do a quick energizing pranayam.
Yep. Let's do it. Yeah.
So
I was hoping you'd say that.
I mean, what time is it there now? It's midday, right?
Yeah.
Have you had your coffee? Have you?
Actually, you know what? I've had just my green smoothie. I kind of do a little bit of intermittent fasting, so I sort of have my meal at 7, last meal latest 7, and then have my smoothie at around about 8 o'clock. So it's like a 12-hour.
Right. Okay. It's not going to be long. It's just going to be like 2 minutes max, right? So this is one of those really powerful pick me up. It's like a double, triple espresso. Do you drink coffee? You do? No. Okay. Well, this is like your. This is your virtual espresso, if you like. Okay. Right. So this is one of the practice that really gets me through the day. Any time of the day you can do it, even at night. So you know what's interesting about like this whole fatigue syndrome that we experience, most of us have, like how we get really tired, right, during the day or at the end of the day, and then we notice that when you're at your wit's end and you find that you don't have an ounce of energy left, but then if like your friend calls you, right, if somebody you love calls you and tells you, hey, let's go out and maybe go and see your favorite band, or go to somewhere where you really love and enjoy, suddenly you find the energy. Suddenly you can, right, when you're already like, oh, and then all of a sudden you tap into that reserve of energy. So that's what we're going to tap into when we practice this, right? So again, the practice of Kundalini Yoga is very user-friendly in the sense that you don't need to roll a mat. You can do it anywhere. You can do it like right now as we're sat in front of our computers. So at work, right? So you can do it sitting down as we both are. And just get nicely situated right now where you're sat, right? So your both feet are on the floor, firmly on the floor. Yeah. Okay. So you're just going to take a nice and deep breath up the sides of your body. Let your palms rest down on your legs, right? So you inhale. And then as you exhale, let your organs just settle down inside of you. Yeah. Now, we'll do that one more time. Inhale deeply through the nose. And then exhale. Once again, really ground your energy, organs really settling. Now you're going to make little fists with your palms, right? Facing up. Okay. So we're going to do what we call Kapalabhati breath. Okay. I'll talk you through it. I'll walk you through it. So you're going to inhale as you reach both arms up high with the hands open. Okay, maybe you won't be able to see me. So hands open as you reach up, right? And then as you this is the inhale. And then as you exhale, you're going to bring your fists down to the sides forcefully. So, right? Here. So inhale, reach up. Okay.
like a
And
Wonder
on the
Woman
next one, you're gonna do it with the mouth closed, so through the nose. All right. So let's do it for a bit. I'll time it. Okay. So ready? Pick up your speed. Keep going. You can keep your eyes closed here. We're gonna do it for a couple of minutes. Yeah. So keep going. So mouth is closed. You're doing it through the nose.
There we
So
go.
the hands are open as you reach up, and then turns into a fist as you pull it down to the ribs. So do it, keep going dynamically. Keep the mouth closed. So you'll notice as you're pumping the breath, you exhale through your nose, right? You're bringing in cleaner, more cleansed, and more open communication to your body right now. We'll do another 20 more. Make sure that the forearms are hitting the sides of the ribs. It will super energize you, I promise. So another 10 more, Alpa. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Inhale deeply, reach up, 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 up. Arms up, hold there, hold the breath, and feel it the back of your heart as much as you're feeling it in front. Reach your arms up. And then slowly exhale. Lower your arms. Let your hands rest on your thighs. Palms facing up. How do you feel?
You know what, right? We were saying
Good,
earlier
right?
on, absolutely recalibrated. Like,
Right.
wow, this pain that I have. You see, this is where I go wrong sometimes. Yeah, these disciplines that my previous Kundalini instructor, she used to say this to me, and there's the breath of fire, the Kapalabhati, and all these important energizing. Like I can just feel I'm just like sort of sorry, let me put it back. Yeah, can you see me? There you go.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling really like, oh, you feel a sense of surge of energy that just
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So yeah,
I think that this is some of these small techniques and even a weekly practice of this. You don't have to do it every single day, but you can include just something like this all the time. So thanks for that reminder. And you suggested this earlier, and I was like, you know what, that's great. Do you know which one I thought you were going to do? Yeah,
breath of fire. Yeah.
Breath of fire.
This is more potent though. We can do that next time. But yeah, this is like really the triple espresso, I find, because you're hitting your ribs and you're releasing energy. In
stretching.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Wonder Woman pose.
Right? Yeah.
No, that was great. But I do. I feel. My next chat that I'm going to have is just going to be like Kung Fu fighting. So everyone that's watching, Madonna and I have had an idea, just a thought at the moment, and I've got to work a process and how this will, all sort of be structured. But if there is an interest to, and Madonna's very kindly said that she's happy to do some private Zoom classes, depending on how many people we get, what the interest is, we can take it from there. So then I can see how to structure it and work it out on Zoom, and take it from there, and maybe from as early as next week. So everyone that's watched this, I hope you found it useful, because it's just a conversation and dialogue. It's just a sort of a very intro. Yeah. A very soft intro into Kundalini Yoga by way of conversation. I generally like to kind of, for us where we are in this moment in time, like fighting so many battles, and then we've got this global battle that we are, fighting on a day-to-day basis. It's with the intention of providing these tools that can actually help to recalibrate, keep you sane if you're feeling a little bit of 50 Shades of Psychopath every now and then. And I mean, I get there quite often, just I admit that, with sometimes when, for example, when Kenzo was not well, or just recent things that I had with family, etc., just to keep yourself centered and calm, and to have the humbleness, like you said earlier on, to see things and perceive things that is going to be for our highest good. So I hope everyone found this good. Please do make comments. All feedback welcome. I get a lot of trolling as well. So, whatever.
Welcome to 2020, 21.